Hello and welcome to Prime Lenses. I'm Ian. Each week I speak to a photographer about 3 lenses that have meant something to them on their photographic journey. It's gear chat, coupled with a little bit of creativity, coupled with a little bit of art, life, whatever comes up really. It's basically an excuse for me to talk to photographers whose work I admire, and this week my guest is Tiffany Roubert, a French photographer who now lives in London. At the time of you listening to this, she's likely to be jetting off to somewhere far away to make exciting work in exciting places with exciting people. She also exclusively shoots film, well I say exclusively, pretty much, with a rangefinder camera, so there was an obvious overlap there in our interests. Her work's fantastic. I can never tell when she's shooting digital or analog. That's definitely the point, and that's something that comes up in our conversation. So, without further ado, you can go and listen to my chat with Tiffany. I will be over here definitely not looking at M5 rangefinders on eBay or MPP. I promise. Maybe. Here's my conversation with Tiffany. Quite a lot recently, haven't you? You've been kind of all over the place.
Yeah, that's why I arrived here as well. It's all about balance. So that's why I feel a lot of comfort being here, in the grey when I have some work to do on the computer. But the rest of the time, I like to be away in the sun. Yeah, if not, I wouldn't.
Yes. It does totally make sense that you would love to spend time away from grey skies that are effectively a softbox. Because I think that's the one thing, when I was looking at your work, there's such a consistent kind of look across it. That's such a kind of it's almost when you're scrolling through things, or if you see that's a Tiffany photo, that feels like a very conscious, you want warm light, you want sun, clean light, and when you're indoors as well, that light is kind of getting in.
Yeah.
I guess one thing that struck me, and the first thing that I kind of wrote down that I wanted to ask you about was your artistic intent, right? And what came first? Was it because you've got such beautiful texture and light and color to all your images, and they're so consistent, I can't tell what they were shot with, what's film and what's digital, and what which I think is the goal, right? And I'm assuming that's a choice.
Yeah.
What came first? Was it the desire to kind of capture a scene and frame a thing, or did lots of things kind of form that soup over time? I guess was where I wanted to start with you.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because I have this very cliche. It's quite instinctive, I say this a lot when people ask me this kind of question. I wish I had a more structured answer to this question, but truth is, it's just what I feel, it's something that, most of the time, a light, it's something that touches me really, and I'm like, oh, I would love to. I find it's more poetic to work with light in a way, and that's what I'm trying to do with my picture,
Mm-hmm.
So because also I started taking picture while traveling, so that was in Australia a long time ago. So I think I still have that thing, about capturing a light and conveying a certain emotion. And even now, living in London in a grey, that's still something that I'm a bit obsessed with. And because I get to travel quite a fair bit all year long, it's always something I'm trying to compensate the grey in London. That's the thing. So that's why maybe when I see something light, I'm like, okay, I need to capture that, because I will need it for the next few months in the rain,
Yeah, kind of fill yourself up on sunlight.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
Yeah. And was it always film? Did you start with film photography, or?
No. That's why I started digital, but I've always been really attracted by the analog aesthetic. So first I was editing as if it was shot on analog, and then at some point I was like, bon, I might as well shoot straight away with a analog camera. I was doing a bit 50-50 at the beginning, and now it's been maybe 2 years that I'm 100% analog.
Right.
So I'm not saying I'm going to be like this forever, because we don't know. It depends on the project. It depends on so many things. Prices keep getting up and up. But
yes,
I love photography so much, and analog photography is the process I love the most. For me, it's not the end result, because at the end of the day, the client doesn't really. Of course, you can sell your project like, oh, the picture is going to be a bit more edgy, a bit more grainy, blah blah blah. But they don't really see that, because if you edit your digital picture in a certain way, they're going to look very similar. So for me, it's really the process, the pleasure I am taking as a photographer, shooting my project, and there is something with analog that speaks more to me. So that's why I like now. And it can evolve, but many analog.
Yeah, it comes across when people are enjoying their work. And I think your work, especially like the of all the things, I came across you, I think, via that Leica blog a few years
Okay.
ago about the Q2, the mono,
Hmm.
and they were strange days. I think we were all going
Yes.
around our houses searching for light and searching for things to take a picture of and stuff like that. But I went down a kind of Tiffany rabbit hole fairly quickly,
Mm.
and I think your Sunday images and things like that, there's you just come across in them. Like I think the images speak to me. Like what do some of those older images now that you're kind of going on? You've made this switch to purely analog. Like what are those images saying to you now? Because you, like you say, no one stays still. Everybody's changing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would say my work over the past 5 years or so, it's kind of what I do now. I just changed the medium
Mm.
that I use to tell the stories.
Yeah,
But also the moment I become a bit more documenting my intimate life, it's I think that's where when I find my style. We say the most intimate, the most universal,
hmm,
it's because people kind of like to see what's going on inside other people's life, and
yeah,
so that's all. That's to speak to me today, and that's definitely something I want to be exploring more and more because that's the kind of photography that I'm really
yeah,
that I love. Like Soul Later.
mm,
I don't know if I pronounce it the right way.
yeah,
Saul
yeah,
Later, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
When I see his work, I was like, wow, that's so beautiful, and
hmm,
that really
hmm,
something that I was obsessed with for a long time.
yeah,
Obviously, I think he was obviously shooting analog at the beginning, but it doesn't really matter. But also the thing that I love with analog, when you think about the process, you immediately think about something very slow. You take your
yeah,
time, because everything obviously it's slower. You don't have as
mm,
many exposure. So
yeah,
I like also to work that way. That's also why I'm and then of course you can be okay. Why don't you shoot in an analog way using a
hmm,
digital? But no,
yeah.
it just doesn't work
It's
for me.
no, I think there is something lovely about it. It's funny. I spoke to David Imel last night about he's a US based photographer who shoots like X pans and stuff like that, and shoots.
Yeah.
And every time I talk to people who shoot a lot of film, I'm always in danger of buying like a film M body
Uh
because I
huh.
have the lenses, so
Yes.
I could
Yeah.
trick myself into thinking this M5 is actually just an investment. I'm actually just,
True,
but
but that's true. So why don't you?
well, I'm close to doing it. I may well do it. Up until now, instant film has been my film love, like
Mhm.
Polaroid and Instax, and
Yeah.
like you, I have the Sofort, which is
Oh yeah, yeah,
I've got both Soforts, and I think the analog one actually makes a more pleasing image in a lot of ways than the digital one. I think the digital one's fascinating because it's this odd
yeah.
hybrid, right, where you can kind of snap a photo with your phone or something, but create a physical thing.
Exactly, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of a different thing. Whereas the analog, the first Sofort from 2017 or whatever, was like such a cool thing. Like I'd never expected Leica to come out with an instant camera. Like
Yeah,
I think
true,
that's wonderful. Like that they
true.
just, if the stories are true, apparently it came up in a board meeting. They said let's do something fun, and
Really? Okay,
that
okay.
was the challenge that
Very,
Dr. Kaufman I
very
think
deep.
is set them. Yeah, and so that's a really cool challenge. That's really fun that like they can still do that. And I think it's a great camera, and it's a shame they don't make an analog one as well as a hybrid because I think that would be a
Yeah,
really
true.
fun
Like an actual, yeah, yeah, yeah.
having
Well,
a
who
line
knows?
of these. Well, right,
They're
yeah,
evolving, they're constantly innovating. So yeah, we don't know.
yeah, yeah. So no, I do love film. I think these conversations may push me. I've already bought an
Mhm.
i2 because of these conversations. The Polaroid, that was Ben Fratnali's fault. So
Yeah.
who knows where I will end up in terms
Next
of buying.
M.
Yeah,
I think
exactly. Just
100% you're going to be a very happy owner
yeah.
of M very soon. Yeah. That's how it
Yeah,
starts,
well, exactly. The M11 will get jealous of the M5, but
Yeah.
it might be a necessary addition
Yeah.
to the thing. So your tool set, is it an MP you shoot with
That's an
mostly?
MP. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, mostly now I would say
just exclusively now. Yeah,
99%. Yeah. 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 I have a
yeah.
medium format Hasselblad
Hmm.
I absolutely love. But
Yeah.
even though it's quite a small camera for medium format, it's still like more bulky, bigger, heavier than the
Mm,
MP. So yeah, I don't use it as much. But
no. And
yeah, the MP.
35 kind of is your focal length like me. I'm a 35 person as well.
Yeah,
The Voigtlander I think you
that's
like, isn't it? Yeah.
Nocturne exactly. Yeah, I
Ah,
was a
yeah.
50 for a long time,
Hmm.
but then I was like, I want something more true to what I see.
Yeah.
Wider. So I went 35, and very recently I went for 75.
Mm.
I wanted like to change a bit. Also for product photography, this is nice.
Right.
So
Yeah.
obviously it's closer. So that's something that I started, and the bokeh is incredible on this one because now I'm so used to the 35, so I kind of forget, and I'm like, oh, that's nice.
Yes.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
the one. But
I was surprised when you wrote about that. When you wrote about
Yeah.
like using the 50 for portraits and then the 75 was on there as well, because I kind of
Mhm.
expected the 75 to be the portrait one, but that makes sense if you're shooting product photography. Because also
Yeah,
there's a vanishingly small number of people I think who would use an M for product photography, let
I
alone
know,
a film
I know.
M.
And
How do you
I
sell
know.
that? Do you struggle to sell it to clients, or like trust me it's
But,
going to work, or
like I said, they don't mind. They just want the
right?
end product. They don't
Yes.
care
Okay.
what you shoot it with. Honestly, that's why I came to realize. So why do I feel good shooting with? That's this one. So why not? I mean,
Yeah.
even like people say, oh, DM is not really great for fashion photography because I think it's great. First, because I often shoot on location outside, and it's so small, so you don't feel like you're
Yes.
inviting the street, or people don't look at you like they might think you're even, I don't know, you're like shooting a friend or whatever. And I like the discretion. I don't like to be
Yes.
okay, I'm in the middle of a photo shoot now, with people looking at you and all those kind of things. So I like to be discreet, and it's perfect,
Yeah.
So I don't know why people are so scared of this system, actually.
No, I mean, obviously there is an investment, I guess, part of it, which is like they sometimes feel unattainable, but like not everybody has to have an M11 or an M10 even. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
digital cameras have been so good for so long, the older
Mhm.
M's, and it is funny seeing the 8 and the 9 kind of coming back a little bit
Yeah,
as kind of
because they're very close in terms of the way they look from analog, actually, the color, and because they're a bit old. My first one was actually 240M.
oh yeah.
That was, and then I went for the
Yeah.
MP straight away without.
Yeah.
I never shot on an analog Leica before, and I was like, I feel it. I think that's going to be the one.
Yes,
And
I think they're kind of like Porsches, like 911s. Like they're all kind of there's this lineage, there's this through line, and I think if you've used one, you can very easily use another one. You can move
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course.
between them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, the same.
sometimes I think if you use modern camera, like handle a modern camera, like a Sony or something, sometimes there's a lot of buttons, and it can be very intimidating.
I know.
Can't
That's
it?
why, like with the Leica, I mean, I feel like I'm just talking about, but like it's just great the way that for me, because I couldn't care less about that brand before. I never been like dreaming
Yeah,
about. It's
yeah.
The reason really is I think they did a great job at simplifying photography, and that's why it's for me it's just straight to the point. You got your 3 settings, theme, and then you just left alone with your creativity, what you want to say, and
Yeah.
don't really care about setting and stuff. Yeah, I'm
No.
not really big technology fan or anything, so yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the other thing that it's a silly thing. Yeah, no, it's a silly thing as well. But like when you're adjusting the lens, that is on the lens, and when you're adjusting the shutter, that's on. It's sort of from a physical. It's like driving a car. Like the gear shift is down here, the brake, the pedal is like it's sort of telling you that like the thing you want is attached to the place it should be attached to. It sort of makes sense, like, or using a cooker or something, like the thing that changes it is attached to it. And so like I find the idea of changing the aperture in a menu to be just such an odd thing. Like, but it's right here. Why why is it? Why is it not just right where I need it? Like it just makes no sense. But no, you've answered one of my questions, I guess, a little bit. Like that it wasn't always the M. You just sort of found it. Like, how did you, if you weren't sitting on the sidelines? Because some of us are dreaming of owning an M, and it's like it's the target. How did you discover them then? If you didn't have the
weird. Well, I knew obviously the brand Leica. I knew it was a good brand, not only aesthetically, from an aesthetical point of view. I knew it was something pretty amazing, solid. Obviously, I knew the history, blah blah blah. But I wanted something smaller. I'm quite petite, so I used to have a Canon 5D, those big fat camera, and shooting
chunky.
everything with it. And I remember at the end of the day, I was like, so tired, like it's big and the lens are even bigger, And I was like, I became lazy to take my camera. When I was traveling, I was like, oh, you know what, I cannot be bothered today. Like, And no, that's a shame because I love documenting my travel. I love taking pictures, but become just lazy. So I was like, okay, maybe I need something a bit smaller. something, that's going to make more sense for me to carry every day. And so I think I tried at some point, I went for Fujifilm because they're great. And that was quite, small and light camera. But then, it is right. And I was once you start getting slightly interested to it, and then you find all the reason in the world why they are the best and why actually you need one and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So I went to the shop living in London. There was a shop in the center and they made me try it. And I was like, okay, I think I like it. And then, I started from there. And of course, the lenses. Like now, honestly, I just shoot with Voigtlander because I should say that, but shooting film, I honestly don't see a massive difference. I had a Leica lens, which was amazing. I mean, no question. But in the way I shoot as well, I like, big grain and everything. I don't see much difference. So I might as well go for a cheapest option that is still very nice,
Yes. They're excellent.
So, yeah, they're great. Absolutely great. So.
Voigtlander are making fantastic glass. I've got a Voigtlander 90 that I love. It's really, really good.
Oh, yeah.
It's a 2.8. And then my favorite 35 is actually a Zeiss, which is the 35-2.8, which is very sharp and contrasty in the middle, but then around the edges has this lovely kind of very antique sort of feel to it, which is quite lovely, the way things fall away. And it's that Zeissy thing of it's very... Ali, who was on the show, a friend of mine, does the 1 month 2 cameras channel on YouTube. She was saying it's just very Zeissy. That should be a thing that people say. Yeah, it just has that look. And so I'm always on this silly podcast telling people that lens is the greatest. It's just so good. And that you don't necessarily need faster than 2.8 a lot of the time, especially if you're focusing with a rangefinder,
Definitely. So that's what I figured.
No, they're lovely. And I fear there was some stuff recently about their new 35 that Voigtlander have put out that looks really, really good, and I'm kind of scared to use it in case, because at the moment I'm in this place where I love that 35 and it's the greatest ever, and I'm worried that I will, and then I'm frightened. I'm frightened of a new love, effectively. If this thing,
when you stop, you need to draw a line.
Well, exactly. I have a 1 camera rule, and so I'm trying to stick to one proper camera. Instant ones don't count. I've carved out that corner for myself. I can buy as many Polaroids as I like. But I'm trying to just have the one body and the one set of lenses, because I think that constriction of choice is also good.
Definitely, I love that too. Yeah, that's definitely the way also I think, that's a good way.
Yeah. Does that factor into when you're thinking about projects? Like your Sunday project was born entirely, it seems, out of the constraint of we have Sunday together, right? That's, and so this is a very special thing. I'm going to document this time that we get to spend together. Do you think of constraints when you're coming with projects and things like that for yourself, or how does the inspiration kind of find you? Do you walk and take notes? Do you have lots of folders? What's your kind of creative process?
No, I mean, like I said, the same way I wanted to switch camera brand because I went for something simpler. I guess it's the same thing, the best camera is the one you have with you. Right? So that's why I also like to stick to one camera, one lens most of the time, which for me was for a long time, the 50 and then the 35, because then it's become a part of yourself, right? You don't think twice about, okay, so today I'm going to shoot this. What should I take? It's just something you don't think. You leave in the morning, you put it in your bag, and then it's just there, if you need it. Yeah. You don't ever think about, okay, so wait, if I'm going to shoot this, maybe I need this lens. Like the 75 that I got is more for work. Also because it's a bit bigger, but I don't think I will ever take me with me on a walk, It's for work, so it's at my home, but my 35 is always on my MP, on my camera, and ready to be in my bag anytime I leave the house, you know?
Oh, it's lovely. And do you use film? Because I guess the thing is, I'm making creative choices after the fact, and I can look at them on digital. Like you're making those choices, I guess, in terms of film stocks and things like that. And this year is quite exciting because there's new ones coming, which is a great new feeling. Like, are you factoring those in ahead of time? It's like paint. It's like choosing paints, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely, definitely. So this varies. It really depends on the weather where I am.
Right.
So if I'm in the sun, if I'm somewhere sunny, I will 99% of the time go for a gold 200.
Right.
Because I love the warm tone. If I'm in London, most of the time. Often it's going to be black and white and very high ISO because, well, not much light available. So it depends where I am and what time of the day I'm going to shoot. And if I go obviously for color black and white, if I go for, if it's a job, if it's just a passion project, because it all depends as well of the kind of grain, if the brand wants something neat, I will go for portrait. If it's just for my personal project, I will go for something a bit grainier. So but it's exactly like picking, choosing your painting or your exactly. That's what I love as well. That's something that I absolutely love with film photography is when you go and choose those little things, that are going to have a biggest impact on the result as well.
Yeah. And you've started selling prints recently, I think.
Yes.
How did that come about as a thing that you wanted to do? If you're working commercially, because this is a whole new thing, I guess, like talking to an audience.
Yeah, well, but people were asking me actually, you're selling this and that. So at some point, I would sometimes do. So if you ask me, do you sell this picture, this painting? Now I think I'm a painter. This photo. I would say of course, and then I will deal with a printing space thing. But I was like, how about I just put it online and then they can just order the photo they want. And but that's the dream, right? You get to create and then you get to sell your creation. That's something I would love to just live on. But that's a nice compliment. If I may put it this way. Sorry, I was in France for days, and every time I go back to London, I feel like I'm going so French. So sorry if sometimes I'm losing some word.
No, not at all. It's your English is significantly better than my GCSE French, so you're doing okay. I had some French years ago, but if you don't use it, it goes, and then before you know it, you just sound. I always fell into that trap of understanding more than I could say, and so I could follow the conversation, but like not.
When it comes to answering, I think.
Yeah, and you get that anxiety as well. I think if you're not there, if you're steeped in it, it's that thing when you travel of if you're there, say 7 days. You're only really comfortable on the last day, kind of
and
using, and then it's time to go. And then you're like, well, when will I next be in Japan or France or whatever. And the other thing that's made us lazy is that English has been, the American export of culture in the 80s and 90s.
So you don't feel like you have to.
Was so complete. English has just taken over. Yeah, I go to Sweden a lot for work and to Holland, and the Dutch and the Swedes. Just English is just so and they just start. I mean, the Dutch, I love being around the Dutch because the Dutch feel a lot like the British. They go pink in the sun and they can't handle their drink. Like they're a lovely they're a lovely counterpart to it. Like they love football and sport and there's a very it's a big Venn diagram overlap there. I think in personality and genetics and stuff. It's quite funny, but everywhere you go in Holland, people just spot you coming a mile off and just go, right, fine, English it is.
Exactly.
Let's go. And so it makes it a bit too easy to travel. We need to count our blessings a little bit.
So do you want to switch? Do you want to switch in French then, so you practice?
Oh hell no!
Alors.
Oh no! I've made a terrible mistake. My youngest son is my little boy is 6. I've got 2 boys. There's one's 6 and one's nearly 10. And the 6-year-old was speaking French. And on my team at work, because I work in video games during the day. Like this is a lovely side project, a beautiful thing. But Florence speaks French sometimes, and we have a little chat when we're on a call. And my youngest was speaking French the other day. It was hilarious. Bless him. He was like running around. When you were a kid and things are very urgent, and he burst into my office and he was like, "Dad," it's like, "What's the French word for cow?" I was like, "Vache," and he went, "Yes, okay." He's like, "Oui, la vache." Yeah, and it was just so funny. This was a thing that it was very, very important that he know in the moment, and I got no context. He just ran in, I feel like we should put the radio on in the background in the house in different languages just to let them absorb.
That's right, definitely.
At that age, you can kind of absorb.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. These other languages, really good. Talking about traveling and international, is a lot of your work fashion work and kind of producty work, or do you do portrait? Because your website has all sorts of things on it. So I'm just curious as to what the mix is.
Yeah. So, for a long time I've been told, and I was doing this myself, you have to niche down. So find a specialty, stick to it, become good at it, and just, So yeah, so I tried different things, portraiture, fashion, and then I was like,
Yeah.
I love doing so many different things. Why would I just put myself inside a box, you know? So
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
my website used to have portrait and lifestyle, which was a
Mm-hmm.
mix of travel and portraiture, basically. And now, I just had escapism, which is
I love that.
work for hotel. Then there is
Mm-hmm.
products, there
Yeah.
is portrait, I think, and travel, which is like lifestyle travel, you know? Because why not, you know? Like, honestly,
Yeah.
like here, especially living in London, where there's so many different things happening, and like I love working with musicians. I love documenting music gig. I love
Yeah.
working, you know, documenting a place, a hotel. I love taking portraits. Like, why would I, you know? I mean, for some people, it might be a bit confusing. I mean, it's working for now. So, yeah, do a bit of fashion as well. Because, I mean, yeah, I'm a photographer. That's it. Like, then people ask, oh, what do you do? That's when I'm like,
Yes.
well, I take picture, and it can be
Mm.
honestly the only thing I would say I don't really do. It would be like the social photography, although sometimes I would, you know, for friend or friend. So
Yeah.
everything related to pregnancy, wedding, this kind of thing. This is not
Right.
my, you know,
Yeah.
it's not where I don't really. I mean, some people are amazing at it, and
Yes.
yeah, it's not really my thing. I would say, you know. But yeah, apart from that, like, I mean, that's the beauty of this job, is that you get to experiment a lot of different jobs, you know.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And you've never been
yeah,
attracted to like street photography and things like that? Like,
not really this. See,
yeah.
it's not really something I love watching, like YouTube video about it,
Mm-hmm.
but no, not really. And I wonder why though, because yeah, that would be that's also again, especially living in London. But no, it's not really
It's
mine.
a very crowded market, I find as well. And
Yeah,
also there are I mean, I'm not brave enough, I don't think, for street photography
maybe
somehow.
that's
I
the
think,
thing, yeah, as well.
yeah, the idea of running around with like a 28mm lens and putting it in front of people and popping it and then just walking away.
Yeah,
I'm just I don't know, I want to form a connection maybe more.
exactly. Yeah, that because that's why for me photography is about as well. It's, you know,
Right.
the connection, the look, something. But some people, they live for this adrenaline. You know, the fact they kind of still get
Yeah.
pictures, and me, that make me highly uncomfortable. So that must be
Yes.
why I don't find pleasure
Yeah.
in that.
No, same. I don't know if you know, there's a photographer who I love, and I'm trying to get to be on the show because I think his work's incredible. Andre Wagner's just the greatest, and his street photos in New York
Oh
are
yes, he
are
does a lot of
phenomenal.
darkroom work as well. No,
Yes, and
really.
and he did the photography for the film Queen and Slim as well, which
Ah
was
yes,
just on set, was just,
yeah,
oh
incredible.
God, it was incredible. Such
Hmm.
the images are wonderful, but he makes it look easy, but he goes back a lot and has talked a lot in interviews about like his. I think sometimes street photos, we assume that there's magic happens in the moment, that you just saw something happening on a street and
But
you got it.
actually, you go, and you go.
But actually, the community know him. He's been there all the time. He's just standing around, hanging out with people, talking to them, so they get used to the ideas. And he tells them what he's doing. He's not trying to
Yeah,
hide it. So I
yeah.
think there's a huge amount of work happening in the background to kind of
Yeah,
arrive
it's
at
not
that.
just like going on a walk and yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I
I
see.
think it's romantic to imagine that inspiration strikes and you just catch the sun or whatever. But I think that's why if you look at street photography on Instagram, there's so many photos of the backs of people's heads and things like that because
Yeah,
people get
true,
a bit
true.
scared to kind of go
Yeah.
around, you know. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned like not liking that confrontation. So when I'm doing a lot of photos with my family at home, because they are kind of they're the available subject a
Hmm.
lot of the time. There was one photo when you're in the Sunday selection specifically, which was Carla. I think looking back at you, like I think everyone who's photographed their partner a lot has that look back at them, which is the look that sort of says, okay, this is the last one. So a little bit. How does she deal with like being like in a collection like that? How did you approach that with a close family member like that and someone like you know you're going to share these images. These aren't just ours. I'd like to share them. Like how do you start
Ah,
that conversation?
naturally, you know, because that's what
Yeah.
I do. So
Hmm.
yeah, and that's something that again, when I was saying at the beginning, everything is instinctive, you know, but
Yeah.
that's the same here. There was no decision making involved.
Yeah.
It was my life at the time. Yeah, we're not together anymore, so that's
Right. Ah,
again.
okay.
I mean, everything is absolutely fine, but it's all those picture even takes more meaning. I feel like because then you're like, oh, that's
Mm.
something, you know, you can look back and there, as long as
Yes.
there was no drama involved, obviously, which is the case,
Sure.
so all good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, it's kind of folk. It was a part of your life, and at that time, I
Mm.
liked to take picture of that, and that's what I was doing.
Yes.
Naturally, because I had my camera and I was spending a lot of time with that person. So yeah, if you're with me, you know what to expect, because that's the kind of work I do. So I don't think I would be also with someone that would be reluctant. Like, I hate
Right.
picture. I would hate dating myself,
Oh,
because every time
right.
someone points a camera at me, I'm like, no, 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 no. So it would be a nightmare to be with someone like
Okay.
me. But yeah, I'm lucky enough to be around people that don't mind me. So
Yes.
I
So we won't
guess,
see too many selfies from you on your
I mean, you see, I'm always hiding in that
some.
behind the camera. So
Yes. Yeah.
that's my
I
way
do
of,
like that though. But again, that's part
yeah.
of that consistent imagery, right? With the consistent language to your photos, which I found is like there's a lot of photos through things and around. Just the Saul
Mhm.
Leiter influence, I think, is visible there too. That,
Maybe,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
he did
Maybe
a lot
that,
of
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Are there any other photographers whose books do you spend a lot of time with photo books? Like, this is my
Oh,
thing I've
yeah,
just
yeah.
discovered. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky because it's very expensive. So if you just
Yes.
discovered, you're ready to go bankrupt soon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, well, in that same register of creative selfie, hiding behind the camera, I love, of course, Vivian Mayer. I got a book as well.
Yes. Yes.
So talking about creative selfie, she was, I think, the best. I mean, very good at it. More contemporary, there is Sebastian Zanella. And
Yep.
if you know him, so absolutely love, especially his analog work, fantastic.
Yeah.
Who else do I really love? Yeah, and then there was a young generation my age, Theo Gosselin, that I absolutely love as well.
Yeah.
And they all work with analog photography as well. That's why at some point I was
Right.
like, oh, I'm very drawn to this aesthetic. I should give it a try. That's
Yes.
why then
Yeah.
I went for it.
No, it's very good, and I think you're right. The pile of books next to me speaks to the fact that this is going to become this
Yeah,
conversation is going to end with me buying some more photo books in an M5. I
yeah.
can see it, and then
I mean, the inspiration we got from this, for me, I just love this. Like, I always have a few books in my room and in my living room, because the first thing I do when I wake up with a coffee, I just love to to go
yeah,
through a bit, and or with a glass of wine at the end of the day. But I love
yep,
either
yep.
starting or ending my day like that.
You have to feed yourself, I think, creatively, don't
Yeah,
you? Otherwise, you need to see
yeah.
other people's things and let that bleed through.
And
Like,
like when you are in a book, I feel like you're very present. I like this. Okay, I'm gonna sit with that book. It's not I'm gonna open an app, I might receive a message, or like between two
yeah,
pictures, I'm gonna see what my friend had for dinner last night. It's not the same. Whereas with a book, you're fully immersed. It's you.
yep,
The book, and you're sitting down and you're fully present. And yeah,
yeah,
that's great. So yeah, I try to get a few nice books per year, because it's quite expensive things to get
yeah.
in, but like that's 100% worth it. Highly recommend it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you're probably doing it right in terms of investing in experiences and travel and things that feed the thing that you love. Because it sounds
Yeah.
like you get up in the morning and fairly quickly start thinking about photography, and it's like
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
that kind of passion
Hmm.
for you, and
Exactly.
you've
Yeah.
made it your work. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
What was it about when you first started? Like, what put a camera in your hand in the first instance? Was it that you were just you felt a creative urge, or was there a practical,
No,
like,
that
just
was
did it for
just
work, or?
that was the desire to share with my family. So I was in Australia, super far away. I'm
Mm-hmm.
from France, if it's not obvious enough, honestly. So I was living there, and I was like, okay, you're going to Australia, so you need a camera, to take some picture, because you're not gonna
Yeah.
go there anytime soon. So I had my first camera, which was a Sony SLR at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted to share the beauty of the crazy country with my family via Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that was just I just wanted to share it. I wasn't expecting anything, I didn't want to be a
Right.
photographer at all,
Ah.
at all. But by taking picture and sharing on Facebook at the time, I was like, okay, like my friend were liking it. I was actually enjoying it. And that's how it started. So first it was just to share
Yeah.
landscape, I was seeing.
Mm.
Yeah, I had no other expectation. Nothing other than, I just want my mom to see it, and my
Yeah.
friend.
Do you remember the moment when you kind of realized, A, I want this to be the thing I
Ah,
do,
oh yeah.
and B, I guess, when you suddenly realized it could happen, or did you just take a leap?
I totally. So because I started taking picture, blah blah blah. My dad came to Australia to visit me, and I remember him. I remember specifically we were in the rainforest walking,
Mm,
and I was taking picture. And my dad, who is like a very, you know, at the time he's a businessman. He has no
mm,
creativity whatsoever in his
right.
bones, and he was the one saying, "But wait, why don't you give it a try to photography? Like you seem to like it, you know?" And I was like, "No, me a
Mm,
photographer? No, never." But he didn't know that he actually planted a seed in my mind. I was like,
right.
"Huh, why not actually?" And after this year in Australia, where I was studying, I was supposed to go back to France to keep studying communication. But I
Mhm.
was like, no, I'm gonna give a try to photography, and I went to London and studied photography. So yeah, kind
Yeah.
of how it started actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
really nice. Yeah, really
Hmm.
good. I think that creative that leap of faith moment is kind of something always worth talking about as well because I don't think it's talked about enough. People talk about just start, right? Just go and do things or just whatever. But I don't think that they also necessarily talk as much about the vulnerability that takes to kind of
Yeah.
change everything and commit
Hmm.
to a course or studying in another country because that was presumably a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. You're committing to being in London and studying and learning something
Yeah,
and
exactly.
surrounding
Hmm.
yourself. Yeah. What was that like first day walking in? Did you know London well or did you literally just turn up to
No, I mean I knew it because I think I went with my family when I was younger.
yeah.
But also I was immersed. I was surrounded by other creative people, you know,
Mhm.
and it was the first time because before that I was studying communication. So
Right.
you know, so I didn't know much about this world at all actually because I wasn't.
Mm.
My story is not, oh, my grandpa was a photographer, he gave me his
Yeah.
camera and I, you know, grew up surrounded by photography
Yeah.
book. No, I have
Yeah.
no knowledge whatsoever when it came to
Right.
photography, but I liked it. It's something that I really, you know, enjoyed.
Mm.
So yeah, so I just quickly, you know, became addicted to, reading about it, reading, I had a lot of books and then I met photographer friends, and then living in
Mm.
London, I will go to photo exhibition, photo
Yeah.
events, and it gradually, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, when it comes to leap of faith, like you said, that's what happened also when I made the switch from digital photography to film.
Mm.
I was like, okay, that's something that I need. I keep going back and forth. I want to be fully committed
Yeah.
to that medium. So I went to Brazil for a month or two, and I took just an analog camera.
Huh.
You know, it's like at least I have no choice. I cannot rely on a practicability and
Mhm.
of digital. I'm just going to commit 100% to analog
Yeah.
photography. And when I
Wow.
came back, I actually had a book. I mean, I had a book in mind. I was like, okay, if it works, then I will make a book. I will do something about it. And that's when I published my zine because of the
Mm.
work
Mm.
that I produced during those few months.
Yeah.
You know, so that was,
That's
I did.
wonderful. Like, You
Mhm.
you that's brave as well to set yourself that because I don't think a lot of people would not give themselves the out just in
Yeah,
case,
but that's what I
like
mean. We
having.
should, because if not, you're always going to wonder. You know, my logic is
Mm.
it's the same for everything in life. If you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. So I'm like, it might be a
Right.
total failure, but if I don't try,
Mhm.
I won't know, and I will always live with that. Oh, what if, you know? And now it's what I love the most, what I do, and I truly enjoy taking picture with this. And client trust me now because that's what I've been doing for a while
Yeah.
now. And if maybe I would be still doing 50-50, you know, it would
Mm.
be more tricky for me to be like, hey, I'm an analog photographer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but then you never
Yeah.
evolve again, like I said. Mm.
Yeah. I think seeing it straight away is one of the things I fear losing. I think it's why I love instant film so much because
Yeah,
it's in between. But I
yeah,
think
true.
the other thing I'm realizing, I'm interested in your take on this as well. Over time, I feel like having distance between the capture of the image and then the reviewing of it is good. Having a gap, being able to see it straight away might be bad. Like I don't know how you feel about the there's a necessary gap for you, even if it's developed very quickly. Like it's a few hours at least. Do you feel
Yeah, I
like that
agree.
helps the process?
For me, I feel help that I cannot see it straight away, yes, because
Hmm.
I remember, let's say I want to capture a scene. If I'm shooting digital, I feel like I'm going to be, you know, really addicted to seeing what it looks like straight away. And I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
be as immersed and put as much effort, if that makes sense,
Right.
as I would do now with a film camera. Because I'm
Mm.
like, oh, I can just correct myself on the, you know, right now. So, you know, you
Yeah.
will shoot. Oh, no, I need to adjust. Whereas with film, I feel like, which is silly because we should be fully immersed anyway, but I'm silly. But whereas with film, I feel like I'm more, okay, I need to get this right. So I'm more, in a way more focused. And also even when I work with a model, they are not here asking to check the camera. I used to hate that. They would always need to check themselves out. And then if something is wrong, they're going to act another way. In this case, it's just me and them. The camera is just something that I use to capture the scene. It's not like a mirror in which they can check themselves out. And that's great. That's why I'm like, it's so easier to work with them.
I'd never even thought of that. People having quite strong opinions about how they're going to be perceived. It's going to be in their portfolio as well, I guess.
Yeah, but because then there was even I did my film. Of course, slightly, but I will always add my touch, like edit a bit. So what you see is not the end result. When they're checking themselves in the camera in the digital. So I'm like, no, but this is. Then I'm gonna edit the picture. It's gonna be slightly different, the tone, the colors, and but then. Obviously, they cannot see that. So I remember, I was like, it was a bit annoying. People always wanted to see the result right now. I'm like, let's just leave the moment. This is going to come better, So at least now I don't have this issue anymore, which is great.
No. I think it does lead, it's funny, I think it does lead to, we're taking the wrong lesson from it, aren't we? Because my big favourite thing, I talk about it a lot on the show, is iteration cycles lead to really good creative work. So if you can start and finish a project and go through all of the stages, concept through to the creation, the act of creation, then reviewing it after, you can go through that loop. That's when you're learning. Every time you can go through one of those cycles, next time will be, better than last time, not as good as next time. Like that's the kind of the way that you're moving through. And in theory, digital speeds that up and gets that faster. But actually, the danger is we then instantly look at it and then instantly unpick and don't trust our judgment anymore, or in the moment, you don't prepare. And even with my Polaroids, they go in this box for about a day before I scan them because they're still cooking, they before they come out, before they you can't expose them to light for too long. They go, they're overexposed. They're very delicate in that way. So I think I'm also thinking like space is good. And coming back to it later.
I totally agree. It comes back to just taking your time, being more present as well, and I feel that's something that digital, photography kind of, it's just too much stimulation. Anyway, we already, 2024, we already live in a world that is overstimulated, and so sometimes you just need to, take more time and just slow down a bit. And I know it's super cliche because everyone say that about film photography, but truly that's what it brings you, and I think we all need it. So whether it's in the medium itself or in the practice, like some people they shoot digital, but they're gonna black out the screen at the back to be more in the moment, not check. And I think that's a great practice as well.
Yeah, if you can do that. The do you work with an editor on that? Because that's the other old thing of like film photography used to be more of an editor driven. You as the photographer would be out of the loop at a certain point. Someone would tell you whether you got it. Do you edit your own stuff, or do you work with editors in that way?
You mean like when it comes to post-processing?
No, in terms of like choosing contact sheets and just choosing the images you use and things like that.
Sorry, no, I don't.
No, just all self. You're in charge from beginning to end.
I mean, I send my film to develop and stuff to a lab. But then no, it's just me.
Yeah, no, there's not many people for whom like developing color film at home is a thing. Like there's so many chemicals involved. I've got admiration for people who do it. But
I know that's the fantasy that I have. I would love one day, but equally, like I love to, be done, send it, and then I get my scan back, and it feels like Christmas. And
yes,
I love that.
No, it's really nice. Where do you send it to? Do you have a couple of favorite labs in London or?
Yeah, so in London, actually I send it to Leeds, to a lab called Take It Easy, because price in London become absolutely insane. I used to work with a few labs here, but unfortunately that become, and I have a post office across my road, so
fine.
I don't have to take the tube to go to the lab, which is great. And when I'm in Europe, I love to work with Carmencita. Do you know them? They're based in Spain.
I was just going to say, I think they're Spanish. I think I've seen them. Yeah.
They're amazing. I love them. Also, I love because they're scanning the film with the border. And it's, it's a small detail I love. Yeah.
Nice.
I just think it's so aesthetically pleasing. So those are two main labs that I work with when I'm in UK and when I'm abroad. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really nice. I think the process is nice. I've got a nice lab because we're up in Scotland. There's a lab I've used a couple of times in Glasgow that I really like, and I went to university in Glasgow, so it's kind of like close to where I used to live, and I have like
Yeah.
a bit of a fondness for the idea of my film going there and being
Yeah.
taken care. It's silly. It's sort of but quite nice.
Yeah, of
But
course.
yeah, I can see through the course of this conversation, I am talking myself into it again. Like,
I know
I,
you're gonna send me at the end soon. Like, okay, look, a picture of the what is the one you after the M5 you said?
well, it's the M5, and the reason it's the M5 is because I think the M5 is quite an unusual looking camera because it
I
doesn't look.
know, bless him.
Yeah,
Actually, people what's the word? He's having a hard time, the M5, huh? Everyone is like, no. So it's,
people are down on it, and I
yeah.
think it's cool. And but I think it's a bit like some 80s sports cars. If you look at like 80s Ferraris or 70s Lamborghinis, they're very boxy. They thought the future was going to be very space age and boxy and very Buck
Ah,
Rogers. And I think Leica have this habit in the way that Porsche did as well, from a design perspective, where they're quite ahead of the time. And so I suspect the aesthetic of the thing was rejected probably at the time as being a bit too weird.
gonna bring it
Do you remember when? Yeah, well, you remember when the iMac had the little dome base and the little screen that pivoted on top, and it could
Yes.
like a little
Yeah, yeah,
sunflower. It was
yeah.
amazing design,
Yeah.
and it stands out as like probably the coolest one they've ever made because then pretty quickly they just became a computer that's hidden inside a monitor, and
Mm-hmm.
that's lovely engineering and it's very clean, but it's just not as delightful somehow. And the M5 looks like it belongs in a movie, like where there's like it's like Terminator, and there's like these are the future cameras, and I'm just like that's just something about it,
Yeah, why not?
it's
That does have some love to like that they do. So you go get it. I said you
yes,
should. You
thank you,
should.
yeah. I will tell Alice later. I'll be like Tiffany said it was fine, and so yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It was absolutely all right to do it, but yeah. So off M5s because you've definitely enabled me plenty. Thank you. What if now you've got the print stuff going? What are you planning to do any more? Because you're doing workshops and things like that. Are you planning to kind of build a bit more of a kind of like a brand Tiffany type stuff to complement the commercial work and things, or is this kind of opportunistic? Do you have like a grand world domination plan? I guess.
No, I really don't. I do. Yeah, it's feeling. No, I don't. We are talking again about hosting another workshop, like in person with
Hmm.
Leica soon, portrait and film.
Cool. Yeah.
And even then, they were telling me, oh, why don't you do it just at some point? You can do it yourself. But I find reassuring to have, someone, a brand to work with. So the
Hmm.
one-on-one that I do online, it's fine because it's me sitting down. But this all, I find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like to associate my name with established brand. Not because I don't. I mean, it sounds weird to put it this way, but because it's a very lonely job being a photographer,
Yes.
right? You feel
Yeah.
very lonely most of the time. Like you edit your picture, you take your photo, and then you come home. So I think it's nice sometimes to just merge with other, whether it's photographer or brand or
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so now me right now there is those mentoring session, the print
Hmm.
shop,
Yeah.
and maybe another zine will be
Oh, cool.
created soon at some point over the next year or so. But
Hmm.
yeah, no, if not, just doing my project and keep diversifying as much as I can because why not? Like I said, we don't need to niche down, right?
No,
So
exactly.
just
No,
keep
there's no
doing,
rush.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah. Mm.
Do you, when you're doing your zines and things like that, do you physically lay stuff out, or do you kind of do it digitally? Because you're working in the analog medium, which would lead a lot of people to assume that you're working with a tactile thing. But of course, if they're scanned, not necessarily.
Exactly, yeah.
You're achieving. So it's because that's the thing. Again, my friend Ali was talking about scanning images recently. Her father was a photographer, so she's when you at the beginning of the conversation you were talking about the person who's grown up around photography their entire life.
Yeah.
Her father photographed models and film stars and things like that, and so her life, she says, was documented in the sort of the 80s and 70s the way that our lives are documented now, with just tons of images everywhere, except
Yeah,
now
yeah.
she has boxes and boxes of prints to
That's good.
handle. Are you filling your life with prints, or are you trying to keep it at least on a screen a little bit?
I'm not. So I do sometimes, but not dark room print. That's what I would love to do. But then again, insanely expensive. So I already made the very expensive choice to work with analog only. So I have to draw a line at some point. But no, I do print my work sometime. I have a little photo printer at home. But yeah, not. I mean, I don't not the proper way you would expect from an analog process. Unfortunately, not now, not yet.
Yeah,
but I would love to. Yeah, I think it's important.
See.
So, but the way I do my zine now, I do everything like on the computer. I will put like 2-3 pictures together, see which one goes with which one, because they work as a pair on the way that I present them on the zine. Yeah. And it's more like when I do some exhibition, which I had the chance to do, like was in Paris, Milan, London as well, like a couple of years ago. So there, I will 100% print the photo I'm gonna show, put them on the floor, see which one goes next to which one, how I'm gonna present them. That's a great way to do, and I love
that.
It.
Sounds like an absolute joy. Doing something like that. It'd be really fun. Yeah. I'd love to do something like that. I think I have a few projects that I'm kind of poking at the edges of to get done, but I need that leap of faith moment to kind of go and find them.
You just have to take it.
Yeah, it's time and access. And the idea for the project I want to do is with video game people as well, like so people engaged in creative stuff, and that's a very secretive industry that doesn't necessarily invite people into the space to see what's happening.
Okay. Yeah.
But as a result, it's not documented at all.
Yeah, exactly. So you have access to a.
And so,
yeah, that's great.
It would be amazing to see, but I know it's a hard sell, and I need to. It's also a hard subject matter to shoot. Is people who are very still, at a computer
true.
doing
so
a thing.
How do you make this a bit more exciting in a way, like visually more appealing? Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, convey what's going on, because there's so much. There's so much. Tens of millions of people engage with this medium all the time. Yeah. And they're doing something all the time.
I guess there might be something with the look, like the way people are absorbed, involved. Yeah. That should be interesting, definitely.
Yeah, reflections. So things like that. We'll see. And we're back to Saul Leiter, I think. It all goes full circle. It does. Oh, cool. Well, that's probably a lovely point to kind of park things on. But thank you so much for taking some time and having a chat today.
Thank you for your interest, and I know we struggled a bit to make this happen, but
it makes it better. It makes it better, and it gives me a bit more time to be looking around and thinking about things. It's funny, I find in preparation for these, walking around, suddenly I'll make some images, or I'll see something and I'll go, oh, I can ask about that, and so you kind of you think about weaving those in. So it's really fun. For people listening, if they don't know your work, where can they find you? Where would you like to point them?
So I'm very active on Instagram. So Tiffany Roubert on Instagram, and I have my website, but it's more just show portrait projects. But Instagram is where it's happening.
Yeah, so, that's where it's at. Have you dabbled in Threads much?
Well, exactly. I was about to say, I'm trying to be. I was like, okay, that's it. I'm posting on Thread, even on TikTok. So honestly, I'm posting 89 at one social media at a time. I cannot be bothered. So not really. For now, Instagram, and hopefully I will maybe be a bit more present on other platforms. But I'm consuming, So,
It is. Well, I think the way it's going, we're moving back towards a thing where you'll publish in one place and then it will just appear everywhere anyway. That's kind of the federated stuff is working. It's it's going to take a few years, but pretty soon you'll be able to. The important thing is having your own website again. I feel like that's gone full circle as well. That's back now in a big way, and Squarespace has a lot to. There's a lot for us to be thankful for things like that.
Yeah, definitely. So this I have, but the rest. Yeah. Let's see.
No. Nice. Well, thank you. Have a wonderful rest of day.
Thank you.
And I'll send you the pictures from my M5.
Yes, absolutely. I know it's gonna happen soon.
Yeah. All right.
But thank
Thanks
you
so
much for the interest. Ciao. See you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it? My thanks to Tiffany again for taking the time to chat there. I really enjoyed that. If you enjoyed it, you can rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen, and that really helps other people to find the show. That would be great. You can also subscribe to the weekly newsletter. That goes out on a Wednesday, and you can get that at ianfarrell.com/sign-up, and there is a link to that in the show notes as well. Thanks for being a great listener. You're looking really good. Have you had a haircut? Are they new shoes? They look like new shoes. Anyway, you're looking swell. If you like the show, tell a friend, and we'll see you again next week.